You are about to enjoy a production of the Ella Wellness Network. This is Wellness Fixes the Pod. I'm your host, Dr. Kelsey Vick, and we are about to get hotter and smarter in 5. Let's get into it. It has been 1 full year of Wellness Fixes the Pod, so let's get hotter and smarter in 5 as we chat about this year, reflect, talk about successes and failures, and then plan and dream about the future of Wellness Fixes the Pod. So a little quick background on Wellness Fixes the Pod and how it got started. But a year ago, my cousin and I were talking just about the direction that I wanted to go with Ella and just different things that could help me get there. And she was like, you know what? I feel like some of the education and the content that you share would be really good in podcast form. And I've always loved education. I've always loved educating. I've always told my husband, I could see myself going back into education. And so I thought the podcast was just something like later on that I would do, that later on I would add in order to help the community. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what, why not try it? So I gave myself a challenge of 4 weeks, uploading once a week. And I've just continued because I've loved it so much. I love combining the women's health and wellness world with the trendy, fun, science-backed things that we want to know. I felt like there was a huge gap when it came to truthful, science-backed information for girls in our 20s and 30s from someone who actually, and from people who have actually been to school and studied it for an extended period of time and have this deep-rooted knowledge or are at the forefront of the research studying about this. So my goal is to really bring on experts who I have vetted, honestly, because some of the time I listen to these podcasts and I'm like, who should I trust? Some of the time they're bringing on someone who is promoting a product of some sort, and I don't realize that they're promoting it until I reach the end of the episode and they're like, oh, and then, my olive oil is the only one that covers all of these concepts. And it just kind of irritates me because I feel like health has become so industrialized a little bit, where what even is truthful anymore without someone selling you a product or selling you, on some idea that is their own. So my hope with this podcast is to really bring on experts who understand the human body in a super deep way, and we can make it fun. We can talk about the topics that we care about, but in a super fun and science-backed way. So I like to mix the trendy words like gut health and the menstrual cycle with a deep understanding of the body and bringing on people who deeply understand the body in the same way, or who have gone through extensive studies in order to understand the human body and the female body. So that's my goal with the podcast. That's the gap I want to fill with this podcast. And right now we're focused on girls who are like me in college 20s and 30s. I just love, because that's the stage of life I'm in. But eventually I would like to grow where we are able to talk about women's health throughout the lifespan, from midlife, menopause, to even well beyond, because I feel like that demographic is hugely left out. But I feel like there's not a huge focus on tailoring the information to women throughout the lifespan in a way that they want to hear. Sometimes we don't want to hear these 3-hour episodes deep diving. And again, I love them, but I know that that's not for everyone. And I really want this podcast to fill that space where it's okay, we're learning about our bodies from a truthful person, whether that's someone I bring on, whether it's something that I have extensive knowledge about, whoever it is, we're learning about our bodies from someone that we can trust, from people that we can trust, and we're able to apply it to our own lives. I also feel like there's so much confusion, again, because you never know if these people have motives that extend beyond their expertise. Where are they promoting a product? Are they promoting something that it's their product is the only way to achieve a healthy lifestyle? I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like that's how some of these podcasts are structured. So my goal is to also really simplify health and wellness, because there's so many ways that we can go about health and wellness. There's so much confusion, there's so much noise. But I think it was Katie who was saying, Dr. Katie was saying, take a look at the perspective that they're sharing it from. And that's when you'll know, is it for me or is it not? So all of the information I share is from the perspective of women's health and from the female body and the female standpoint in general. That way we're not looking at what Chris Hemsworth is doing, like I mentioned in that episode, and repeating it, thinking that, oh, our bodies must work like Chris Hemsworth because we're both human. No, not the case. We are females. We have a lot of different things that happen. We are also not built like Chris Hemsworth. We don't have the life that Chris Hemsworth has. So my hope is this podcast fills that void a little bit and provides truth-backed, science-backed, simplified health and wellness information in a fun and trendy way with topics that we as women and as girls care about. Another reason I want to do this episode is because I feel like we as women primarily, but people in general, like we don't take the time to celebrate our wins or celebrate our successes. And I feel like reaching a year consistently is something to celebrate. And so I'm very proud of myself. I'm taking this time to like soak it in and understand like how much work has gone in through the last year in order to like make the episodes, research the episodes, put my heart and soul into these episodes, into reaching out to podcast guests, all of it. So I feel like a lot of the time I'm so growth focused and growth minded and like what's for the future, but I really am trying to take this time to celebrate. And I'm hoping that me doing that will also encourage you, because I know there's so many moments in your life that you have probably not celebrated because you are also future focused. So take the time you need to celebrate your wins as well. And then the second reason I wanted to do this episode was I feel like sometimes speaking out loud our goals is definitely not something we do as women. I feel like men are really good at this. Like any sort of networking event, they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Like they're speaking their goals and speaking their dreams. And I feel like women kind of shy away from that. And so I wanted this episode to present sort of like my thoughts on where I want the podcast to grow to. I know this is going to be so much longer than 5 minutes, so I'm so sorry, but I felt like this episode needed to happen to celebrate 1 year of Wellness Fixes the Pod. So a quick 1 year recap, some of my areas of growth, let's say, for the podcast, and there are many, but I feel like production quality is one of the main ones. If you listen to my very first episodes, I would just film one stop through, which honestly, like wonderful for me, because now I at least like pause, reset, swallow, breathe before I start the next segment, at least when I'm editing these solo podcasts. But I would just take it in one fell swoop. So something that's changed is now I actually go through and I edit out some of the ums, I edit out some of the pauses, I edit out some of the swallow noises. So I feel like in general, the production quality has improved significantly. I would love a better microphone, and I'm so sorry about that, but I try my best, and that is something that I will definitely be interested in, like upgrading the podcast in the future. I've also recently added an introduction, which I love. I feel like it adds to the professional quality of it and just the like the neatness, the wrapped up in a bowness of the podcast. I've added chapters to where it's easier for people to go and search different content. I've sent the episode with Dr. Katie and Mel to certain people and just been like, hey, I think you should listen to this section. And I feel like adding the chapters is a nice way to be like, hey, look at the creatine section. And that way they don't have to go through this whole episode, but they can take what they need from the episode, because I do structure my questions based on the questions I get from you guys. And so if you've specifically asked me a question, I've tried to send that episode to you to be like, hey, this is where I asked your question to someone who's an expert in this field. Let me know what you think. So I think adding chapters is a great way for all of us to go back and reference the information, and then also like people to find out what we're talking about on the pod. And then lastly, this is a recent, I guess, success and growth, but having guests on, having experts on. I was super nervous, and honestly, I've loved the solo episodes, but I've realized that there's only so much that I feel confident talking about without adding to the noise within this space. I don't want to be the one talking about all of the like nutritional intricacies of how training works with how we're fueling, or all of the things on like the up and coming women's health research. So I wanted to reach out to a lot of these different experts, especially researchers, to be able to come on and share their research, share their knowledge, share their education, so that we can all like learn from them and learn from someone who's actually studying the female body, the human body, and how it interacts with whatever they're studying, whether that be nutrition, performance, training, creatine, brain health, Alzheimer's, dementia, pregnancy, postpartum, like so many categories that fall under it. So I've been super excited to have the guests on. And honestly, I feel like on such a high after those episodes, because it just like feels like we're doing something to further the field of women's health, especially for younger women. And I say that, you know, knowing like high school, college, 20s, 30s being like, you know, 40s being younger women. It's not like this, you know, teenagers, but still, I think these experts have been so willing to like share their knowledge, and I'm so grateful for it, because they're just, yeah, it's just wonderful that there's so much camaraderie in this field and in women's health and wellness in general, that they're willing to come on and take time out of their day and their busy schedules to like share their knowledge and education. So I'm so grateful for that. And it's definitely been a room, like an area of growth over the past year. So, a few of my favorite episodes and series. The interviews recently have been my absolute favorite episodes, probably that I've ever done, especially the ones, and again, I have so many down the pipeline, but I know that these next 3 weeks coming up, I wanted to do more menstrual cycle episodes because hint hint we're releasing the menstrual cycle program beginning of April, so I wanted to like correspond menstrual cycle episodes with the menstrual cycle program. But then after that I have, I think, 3 or 4 and even more interviews coming up next week. So we will have way more of those guest expert interviews. So I'm very excited about those. And some of the ones that have come out recently, they have been my top performing episodes. Like, people love them. I get so much great feedback on like, I didn't even know this. I've actually sent some in order to tell other guests like, hey, I've done an episode on this. Would you like to come on and share your knowledge and education? This episode sort of corresponds to what you do. I'm just going to send it over in case you want to read it or listen to it. And I've gotten some emails back saying like, oh my gosh, after this episode, I went out and bought creatine from these experts in the field, right? So it's fun to just like, yeah, those have been some of my favorite because I feel like it's some of the most like educational episodes, but then also application based. Like, we're able to take what they tell us and recommend and like send it out into the world and put it into our own lives. The menstrual cycle series, of course, one of my favorites. I think we did 3 or 4 episodes, and then those are always like something that people want to know about. So I'm excited to do more menstrual cycle episodes in the future and like increase the production value a little bit because, again, if I listen back to my first episode, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I not edit out like a swallow sound? Or like, I get super critical of it. But the menstrual cycle ones are one of my favorites. I love the spring cleaning ones I did last spring. I took spring cleaning and talked about like gut health, brain health, our lymphatic system, like our spring cleaning systems of the body. And again, that's when the production was very low. So I need to go back and redo those episodes and just like update some of the knowledge and education shared. But I love those. The inflammation and cortisol series, debunking both of those and sort of decreasing the fear around those. Also some of my favorites throughout the year. And then hint, hint, we have a pregnancy series coming up that I'm so excited about. Those are the interviews I have coming up in the next few weeks with experts related to pregnancy, whether it be pelvic floor therapy, whether it be training, whether it be like researching the research side of things, whatever it is. I'm very excited to have those people on to share expertise in the pregnancy and postpartum realm. So as far as the future of Wellness Fixes the Pod, my goal is to make this, again, a destination for girls for truthful, science-backed health and wellness information in a simplified way that inspires both education and action. And speaking my goals, this is a little nerve-wracking for me, I guess, a little bit. I'm like shaky announcing this a little because it's something that I've been working on behind the scenes for a long time, and it'll be something that I continue to work on behind the scenes for multiple years because it's a really big project. But my goal is really to also create a content cluster network where we have an expert, go-to expert who has her own series, podcast series, blog series, whatever it is, resources that you can come on nutrition, on dermatology, on brain health, on hormonal health, like really narrowing down the expertise a little bit and finding people who can make this super awesome girl group that you guys feel comfortable going to for information when the noise gets too much, where they can bring on who they agree with and whose research they align with and who they really feel like is doing their due diligence in the women's health space, but that you're able to learn from someone who is like at the top of their field and who doesn't just have a 6-week certification in nutrition, right? Or who does not just have like, I was a ballerina for 25 plus years and therefore I know all about nervous system regulation. I have no doubt that those people have the best intentions in mind. But when we're talking about your own health and wellness, I want to make sure that the people that I bring on and that are able to share the information align with my goals of highly educated, highly science-backed, like willing to think outside the box, but also like deep knowledge on their respective fields. So if you guys like, let me know your thoughts, because again, it's super scary thinking about this and like working on this in the background without actually like telling people about it, I guess. So that's my goals. That's where I want, I guess, the network as a whole to go. But for Wellness Fixes the Pod, it will still be the space to come for health and wellness knowledge from a physical therapist, doctor of physical therapy, specialized in orthopedics, and then also women's health, so that you know what lens you are getting that information from a little bit. So again, we've talked about gut health from like a movement standpoint, because I feel like that's hardly talked about, and I definitely do not have the knowledge to speak on like the supplement probiotic route of it. So that's why I bring on these nutritionists and dietitians and people who are experts in that field. But that's my like hopes, dreams, bigger plans for the podcast. And let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have people who you think might be a good fit for this idea, because yeah, I just want it to be a space where we all can go to understand our bodies more from people who know the human body and know health and wellness and know the female body and are very purposeful about educating themselves on the knowledge that is up and coming in the fields, in their respective fields, and then bringing on people who are also at the forefront of research and education and even products, right? Because there are so many wonderful products out there. But I want you guys to be able to, if I bring on someone who has a great product, I want you guys to trust that, be able to trust that, okay, Kelsey doesn't just bring on anyone or doesn't just let anyone, advertise their product on this platform. Like, she has definitely vetted them, and whoever else the experts are that I bring on, like, they have vetted these products. They're not just trying to promote them just to promote them. Like, they truly are life-changing. So that's where I want this, I guess, community to grow to. And let me know y'all's thoughts, because it's it's nerve-wracking saying it out loud, but I'm so excited. And yeah, just thinking about the future and hoping and dreaming in that realm has been so much fun. And I'm crying again. I always cry. I'm super emotional. But yes, that's the future plans for the podcast. And again, 5-10 years down the road, like, that's kind of where I'm going with this, where I'm doing all I can right now, but I know I want to get the right people on board who have the same goals and the same ideas in mind. And that's just going to take a while to find and to make sure that we have the right people on board. So I'm very excited about it. I hope you guys are too. Let me know any other thoughts you have, any other people that you want on Wellness Fixes the Pod, any other ideas that you have, how you feel about the Content Cluster Network. And again, I don't have like a fun name for it, but I want it to be, women's health focused. So it's not something that is going to be like spanning so many different industries. That's my thought, at least. I want it to strictly be focused on improving our lives as women. So let me know what you think. That is a wrap on the year episode, like 1 year anniversary episode of Wellness Fixes the Pod. Maybe I'll have to like come back and redo this at 2 years and 3 years and every subsequent year. That way I can see like how much we've grown and how much things have changed, or just reflect, because I think this is a good time. Again, we don't reflect enough, we don't celebrate enough, and we don't share our hopes and dreams enough. So this is me doing that, and I'm hoping that you guys will do the same with me so that I can help you just as much as you guys are helping me. Thank you. A huge thank you to everyone who has followed, subscribed, listened, downloaded any of the episodes, shared. I am so grateful. I say this often, but if you are someone who creates, you know how like happy it makes you that people are willing to like consume your content or your creation or your education or whatever you're putting out there. And I am like so grateful for everyone who listens, everyone who has subscribed, downloaded, shared. Again, like, just messaged me back, because I'm putting this out into the world, and I love when you guys message me and tell me, hey, I would like this on the podcast, or hey, I got a lot out of this episode. Oh my gosh, I had no idea I was under fueling. Oh my gosh, I just bought creatine. Which brands do you recommend? Like, all of this it makes it worth it for me, because it's something I love doing, but then seeing you guys enjoy it and also get beneficial education and like information and being able to apply it to your own life, that's where the real win comes from. So I'm so grateful for you guys. I will stop my yapping because this is way longer than the 5-minute episodes that they usually are. But thank you for celebrating with me. I should have brought some champagne to like pop in the studio, but thank you guys for all of your support. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I'll see you guys again on the next episode of Wellness Fixes the Pod. And as an aside, if you want to help me grow this podcast, sharing, liking, reviewing, rating, all of that helps. So If you wouldn't mind, I would super duper appreciate it. And thank you guys so, so very much.